So I was in Asia recently, and something about the Asian culture is that they are super prepared people. Like, super prepared and super organized. I've been on lots of trips with my father, and they give you itineraries, right? It's a fun word. And I don't like planning, I don't like scheduling, I'm not that kind of guy. I like just, do everything improv. That's kind of my style. So I've had different itineraries, different things. Basically, you just know there's a meeting at this time, they give you some free time, they send you a nice PDF. But boy, when you go to Asia, it's a different animal. For 3 weeks, I had my entire day, every single day for 3 weeks, planned to the minute. I've never done something like that in my entire life, but like planned to the minute. I felt like I was in the military. I mean, they had sections of like sleep time, eat time, walk time, train time. Like everything was just so scheduled out my every single day around the mission that we were there to do. And we were there to do Messengers, a prophetic course that we do, and we were there to do it. Now, not only did they plan for those times and those meetings, but then they made everything around it super organized. So they had food. They even on their schedule put what kind of food we would be eating. I mean, who does that? Like they had it, crab this on the certain day. They were so far ahead planned, and I had never experienced such planning ever in my life. That I just walked in, and then there would be a car waiting at exactly 9:30 downstairs in the lobby, and you'd walk in there, "Hi, sir," and then they would open the doors. They were just. I've never been so taken care of planning-wise than when I go to Asia. I mean, the first 3 days it's weird. I won't lie. Like, it's super organized. You can't go to the bathroom without someone from the church, like an usher, walking to make sure you get there on the right place at the right time and then come back. I mean, it's really weird. Like, they're just everywhere. And are you thirsty? Are you hungry? Are you this? Are you that? Wow, I've never been so taken care of. And that's the thing in the culture. It's so important to take care of somebody. And hospitality is super important. So the first few days was weird. By week 2, I was like, this is kind of nice. I never have to cook. I never have to worry about food. I never have to worry about transportation. I don't have to worry about anything. I mean, they just take care of absolutely anything. Wouldn't that be nice in your day? I don't know about you, but that'd be kind of nice. You don't have to worry about, like, those things we worry about just aren't there. Like, I've never had that, where it's just eliminated, that part of worrying about how I'm going to take care of things. It just wasn't there for 3 weeks. It was really surreal. And so God started talking to me a lot about provision and what He wants to do for us, and how He wants to prepare for us. And we have in the first verse, Matthew 6. It says, "And when you are praying, do not use meaningless repetition as the Gentiles do, for they suppose that they will be heard for their many words. So do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask Him." Tonight I'd like to propose, this is the whole point of this message, is that God is prepared for you. Okay? He's prepared for you. He's not unprepared for you in the other way too. You're not a surprise. You're not unplanned. You weren't a mistake. You're not an accident. The choices you've made haven't made you in some limbo place where you're not planned for. You are planned for, and you are prepared for by God. And just as my every single day and all the things that were planned in advance before I showed up, God plans our future before we show up. He goes before us. He takes care of us. And like this says, lots of us think, man, I got to get God's attention because of my needs. And this is saying He knows before you ask Him what you really need. I mean, how great is that? Just think about that. You don't even have to ask God right now. He knows what you need. You realize that? Like, you don't even have to pray right now. He knows what you need. He's that aware of your situation right now that you don't even have to, I don't even have to pray for Him to get His attention. And these say the repetitions, lots of the words that the Gentiles use, I have to try to get His attention by the more I pray. And He's saying, you've had my attention before you were born. It says, before you were in your mother's womb, I knew you. You've had His attention before you were born. You were planned for before you were born. He didn't stop planning for you the moment you were born, or the moment you turned from Him, or the moment anything else happened. You were planned for the entire time, and that includes right now, in whatever situation you're going through. It is planned for. Okay? Without even having to ask. Psalm 139:16 in the Message says, "Like an open book, you watched me grow from conception to birth. All the stages of my life were spread out before you. The days of my life," listen to this, "all prepared before I even lived one day." I'm going to read that again. The days of my life all prepared before I even lived one day. I like to propose that God has planned every day of your life. And He's planned for every day of your life. Oftentimes I've heard and I've dealt with people. I remember at work, and one lady had lost her child, her baby, and people would tell her, "Oh, that was God's plan. God's plan. The baby died. We don't understand His plan. We don't understand it, but that was His plan. The baby had to die." You ever heard that? You ever heard that situation where they think the Christian answer is to say, "Well, it's God's plan. God's plan was for that baby to die." And I said, so you're telling me that this God, who from conception to birth has every day of life planned, wrote in, and then I'll make the baby sick on this day, and then he'll die on this day. What good father plans these things? There's another verse that says, "I know the plans I have for you, good plans to prosper you, not disaster." God does not plan disaster in your life. It is not the purpose of God or the will of God to do disaster in your life. The accidents, the sicknesses, the deaths, all these things we live in because it's a fallen world. And God, Jesus said there will be pain, there will be suffering, there will be all these bad things, but guess what? He's not behind it. And we know that because it's not His will. His will is that we wouldn't have to deal with any of those things. We know that because He sent Jesus, so we wouldn't have to deal with them forever. So we know it's not His will that He gives kids sicknesses, that He causes things. He's not behind it. He doesn't sit there in the book like He's talking about here and plan the bad thing for you. That's a hard pill to swallow when people say God's got to plan His will. So He planned for that bad thing? You know? But I would like to suggest tonight a different way of looking at it that He shared with me that really touched me. Is all of them, the days of my life have been prepared for. Did God plan for that car accident, let's say, to happen? Was that His plan for your life? No. But did He prepare for it when it did happen? Yes. He was prepared for it. God is prepared for you every single day. He doesn't plan all the bad. Okay? It's not part of His plan. But guess what? He planned for the bad. Do you get me? He planned for when it happened. He went ahead of you, He looked at it, and He planned for when it happened so that He would be ready for it, and He was prepared for every situation that you're going to go through. God doesn't plan your bad things that happen to you, but He planned for them, to be there for you when they do. Do you get me? When we live with this and with this kind of peace, I understand that now God is prepared for me. And this is the same, let me give you an illustration. If I go camping with 4 kids, I'm going to take my family camping. I'm going to go for, let's say, 5 days. I'm going to prepare and bring enough supplies for 5 days. I'm going to bring food, I'm going to bring clothes, I'm going to bring activities, I'm going to bring lots of things for us to go camping. I prepared for every day that I'm gone with them. Okay? No day the kid can't do it on his own. He's not saying, and then I need tuna on Tuesday, and on Thursday I'm going to have a nice, grilled chicken. No, the kid's not doing it. It's up to the parent, and the parent, if I'm taking my kids, has planned for each day of camping, because there's no supplies out there. I'm going and I'm preparing. Now, I can bring rain gear, and I can plan fun things out to do, but I can't stop it from raining, even if I get out there. Right? Have you ever been out there? Yeah, you guys remember that. Camping, and you get out there, and then it starts raining, it ruins everything. But a good planner is prepared even for the rain. They brought the raincoats and all those things. In the same way, if you consider your time on earth a journey, a trip, a camping here on earth, He has prepared for each one of your days in every situation, though there will be rain. Do you get me? He is prepared, though. So God, did He plan every day and all the bad things in your life? No. But has He prepared for them? Absolutely. He is prepared for every single one of your days. And He's gone in advance and do it. That's an encouraging thought. At least to me. He's prepared because He goes ahead of us and He goes behind us. Psalm 139 says, "O Lord, you have examined my heart and you know everything about me." That's everything. You know when I sit down or stand up. Why does He care about that? I don't know when other people sit up or stand up. He pays that much attention. I mean, shoot. I didn't know I was that interesting when I sit down and stand up. He knows when I sit down and I stand up. He knows my thoughts even when I'm far away. You see me when I travel and when I rest at home. You know everything I do. Everything you do, He knows. You know what I'm going to say even before I say it, Lord. Wow. You go before me and you follow me. You go before me and you follow me. You go before me, ahead of me, and you follow me. You place your hand of blessing on my head. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too great for me to understand. The Passion Translation puts it this way. You know every step I will take before my journey even begins. And listen to this. You've gone into my future to prepare the way And in kindness you follow behind me to spare me from the harm of my past. That's a cool way to put it. You go before me, ahead of me, you go behind me. You go before I take a step. You know exactly where we're going. And you prepare, it says, the way before I take a step. And then, not only have you prepared the way and you've gone to the future and you see where we're going, you go behind me to protect me as I'm going from my past.
Wow.
That's a cool idea. He's prepared the way for you. He knows the plan. And now he's going behind you to make sure you get there. Sometimes we need that guy behind us pushing us.
Mm.
You know? Sometimes we need that. That rear, that push. You can do this, you can do this, you can do this. We need that person in the back that's pushing us, not just way out front. Because if I just rely on somebody out front, I can get lost because his pace is not mine. But he's so good, he says, I'm going to wait behind you too. That's okay. I've made the way. Now I'll wait behind you. And we're going to get into that and what that actually looks like. But every step he knows before I take one. He's gone into your future. Again, he's prepared for every day. Because he's gone into your future. He has seen it all. And he's prepared. It's one thing to say, well, I'll just, you have a supply of different things. Like preppers, right? They have a certain supply of things for when things go bad. Now, he's got specifics ready for you. Your preparations are not my preparations. Your preparations are mine. They're different because he's gone into your specific future and has seen it and is prepared for it. He's prepared for every single day. Isaiah, this isn't up there. Isaiah 45 says, I will go before you and make the rough places smooth. Man, sometimes you won't even get to the rough places. He's already gone before you made it smooth. How many times in our life that we'll see when we get there, oh God, you went before me. That mountain I was supposed to go over, you made it a tunnel. Thank you, Jesus. He's already going through and making ways for you that we aren't even aware of. He goes in front of you. So that's why Jesus says, your Father knows what you need before you even ask him. Why? Because he's gone ahead of you. He knows what you're going to need. Next Thursday, when you have that toothache pain, he knows what you need because he's already seen it and he's gone ahead of you. There's a great couple here at the church who've gone through something really difficult with a sickness in their family. And I was talking to them a little bit about this, and they shared testimony that said, I don't know why this happened. I don't know why this person got sick, and I don't know why all these terrible things happened, but I tell you what, during the time, we never lacked for anything. The medical bills were always covered miraculously. We got the invitation for the perfect job that let me be flexible to take care of this person. Like the things that came out of nowhere in the situation, the only way we could explain it is God was prepared for it.
Yeah.
God was prepared for it. But why didn't he stop the... We can't get into there, right? You know what I mean? Like, we're not God. At the end of the day, there's always going to be those questions. Well, why didn't that? We can't get into all that. But I tell you what, in every situation, to guarantee, he's prepared for it. So that's why the medical bills were covered. That's why all these things came out of nowhere, because he had already gone into their future, and he was prepared for it. How confident can we be when we enter into situations in our life and seasons in our life that says, he's prepared for this moment right now, this season right now, this hardship right now, the moment where I can't pay all of my bills right now, he's prepared for it already in advance. He's gone in advance to me. So that's why I know my Father knows what I need before I ask him. Provision is not knowing how to get God's attention to my needs or my amount of prayer, but knowing that he's gone before me. And that's why Jesus says in Matthew 6, and it's going to be up here, but first and most importantly, seek or aim at, strive after his kingdom and his righteousness, his way of doing things and being right, the attitude and character of God. And all of these things, which are we talking about, food, clothing, all these things that we worry about, all these things will be given to you also. I like that this actually translates literally to continually seek first the kingdom and his righteousness. It's not just like seek first, like it's just this one time thing. No, it says continually. That's an action I'm doing every single day. Continually seek first his kingdom and his righteousness. What's his kingdom? You can easily summarize it by his will on earth. That's his will on earth. Jesus says, let your kingdom come, let your will be done. Continually seek first his will every day in your life, in your seasons. Continually seek his will. And then it says, and his righteousness. It's funny when people quote that scripture, they usually leave out that and righteousness part. That's why seek first, I've noticed that. It's always seek first the kingdom, and all these things will be added to you. I was like, wait a second, there's this section there that says, and his righteousness. Other translation says, and live righteously. There's this part that says, seek his righteousness continually. Again, it's the same, continually seek his kingdom, his will, and continually seek his righteousness, which again is just his way. Easy way to say it. God's way of doing things. His way. What he says is good, bad. What he says how to do things, it's his way. So Jesus is telling us the key to provision and all of these things. He's gone ahead of us and prepared for us. How do we access that? Continually seek his will, continually seek his way. And you will have access to all of these things. The provision that he's already prepared for you. It says it's added to you, which means it's been already prepared for you. It is added to you. Continually seek his will and his way, and all of these things will be added to you. Provision is on the way. You know, it's I don't want to bring up, well, okay. So, and sometimes in like mountain climbing, I brought up Everest last time, I'll bring it up a little bit again today. And when you're climbing on Everest, there's 4 base camps that you go up. At each camp, provisions are laid out at each camp ahead of you. So as I'm climbing, I'm running out of oxygen. Oh my God. Guess what? The guy in front of you, the leader, he's brought extra tanks in case you need an extra one. He's prepared ahead of time. And then when you get to the destination, at each checkpoint along the way, there's provision waiting for you. A resupply of food, oxygen, water, bed, shelter, everything that you need, there's a resupply. You can't do it on one supply. But let me tell you, if you got off the path, and you say, I'm going to go that way, and the guy's like, we need to go this way on this trail, and you say, no, I can do it this way. You're left on your own supply. Right? And until your resources run out, you're left on your own supply. And all you'd have to do is stay on the path, and boy, you'd hit that checkpoint. There's a resupply left ahead of you. Many times in our callings, there are resupplies left ahead of us. We just got to stay on the trail. And that's why we got a guy who goes in front of us, ahead of us, and behind us to make sure we're on the trail. Stay on the trail, and the provision is on the trail. Do you get me? The provision is on the trail. And we're going to see a story of that. It happened with Elijah. The prophet Elijah, he said it was God's will, and remember, God's will and his way. It was God's will at the time that there was to be a drought. And he tells the king, look, there's going to be a drought for the next several years until I say otherwise. Well, I've never said something like that. There will be a drought until I say otherwise. Like, is that arbitrary? Is it when he felt like it? I mean, people seeking him like, say it, just say it. I don't know. So it was God's will that there would be a drought. He says, until I say otherwise, there will be a drought. That was God's will. And he was willing to follow his will because he opened his mouth and he said, okay, drought starts. I don't know what he did. If there's a ceremony of some kind. So he started a drought. That is what God's will was. Now in 1 Kings 17, 2 through 4, it says, this isn't up there, but it says, then the Lord said to Elijah, he just announced the drought. He tells him, go to the east and hide by a brook, near where it enters the Jordan River, and drink from the brook, and eat what the ravens bring you, for I have commanded them to bring you food. This is bizarre, okay? Don't expect ravens, don't expect animals to bring you food out their mouth. That's weird. Don't go to the pigeons in the park and say, you've been sent by God. I see that French fry in your mouth. That's for me. That's not what they're there for. Don't eat from the pigeons in the cities, okay? It's not provision for you, I promise. Neither is the gum on the undersides of it. Okay, so don't eat from animals. There's not provision. But in this case, he just announces the will of God is there's going to be a drought. And then he says, look, go to this river in this location, and there I will have ravens bring you food, and there will be a river for you to drink. So he's saying, I'm going to take care of you. You're on my will, and this is the way that I'm going to take care of you. Remember, will and way. You have to continually seek both. He says, here's the will, here's the way. I need you to go to this place and eat from the ravens. So he gets there, and guess what? The ravens meet him, and they're there every day. And they bring bread and they bring meat. Strange, bizarre. Fun fact for you, he didn't eat the ravens, okay? Because that would be an unclean animal to the Jewish culture. So he didn't eat the raven. All right, what does that mean? Just a side note here. Sometimes God can use the unclean or the world, right? A job, an opportunity, a whatever, to be your supply every single day. To be your raven every single day. It's not limited to the miracle check in the mail that we hear about. All right, that's easy to think too. Like, God only provides those miracle checks. Okay, he used an unclean animal to provide for him every single day during a drought. God can absolutely use an unclean job, as the church would say, to provide for you. Absolutely, absolutely. So don't limit yourself to how God provides for you, okay? Because you could totally miss out. All right, so he gets there. Question, what if he'd gotten those supplies if he decided not to go to the place? No. It didn't say, hey, guess what, Elisha? I'm just going to have birds follow you. And they're just going to bring food with them everywhere they go. And they're just going to show up. You decide, Elisha, you go wherever you want, and the ravens will follow you. That's not how it worked. The guy would have been hungry. He would have been talking real fast. Drone over, like really, really fast. He would have called it right away, called it quits right away. But no, he says, show up at this place, and I'll have the provision there for you. You know, a lot of times provision is on the other side of obedience. God provision requires 99% of the time, or not always, obedience, because that's trust. Do you trust that I'm going to take care of you? Do you trust that I can get ahead of you? Do you trust that I've got all this planned for? Do you trust that I'm going to handle this? Okay, come over here. This is where your provision's at. You know, it doesn't take a lot of trust in my ability. If I can just go work and I can do whatever I know I'm good at. Okay, that's great. Trusting God in His provision. Boy, that's something different. And this is what he saw here. So he's there, and then let's pick up the story in 1 Kings 17:7. This one's up here. It says, but after a while, the brook dried up, for there was no rainfall anywhere in the land. Well, yeah, he called it drought. Okay, so then the Lord said to Elijah, go and live in the village of Zarephath, near the city of Sidon. He says, I have instructed a widow where? There. The widow is there, not coming to you. The widow is there. I've instructed a widow there to feed you. So he's here, provision, wonderful. All of a sudden the brook dries up. And if I'm him, I'd be like, what the heck? Why'd you call it drought? You know what I mean? Why'd you call it drought? What, can you just make the water go again? You did it for Moses, like, let's just get some. No. Instead, that season was over. And he says, now I need you to, again, go to a new place. Whether that's take a new job. Maybe that's, I don't know what that is in your life. But this season is over. Too many times we stay at the dried up brook because it provided one time. And boy, we get stuck and we get thirsty. And we get thirsty. Now we're only eating meat, but we're really dehydrated. You know? And we stay because it's comfortable, because whatever, we're used to it. And God, I don't want to have to risk again. I tell you what, oftentimes, the moment we get really comfortable and settled in and used to it, the routine now, that it doesn't require trust from me, is often the times when the brook dries up and God says, okay, now come this way. Yeah, you got comfortable there trusting me. Great. I'm excited. You passed the test. Here's the new one. Let me dry up the brook a little bit. Now come over to this village over here, and I prepared something ahead of you. Again, the widow was there. If he didn't go to the widow, to that village, the provision wouldn't have been there. He had to get up and go to the provision. So he says, "Guy, now I need you to go trust me again." God's in a constant state of getting you to trust Him. If you are not in a state of trusting Him, there will be dried up brooks. That could be emotionally, that could be fulfillment from work, that could be so many different things, literal, financial. And He's asking you, it's just a sign to move on to trust me more. We need to continually seek His way and His will. When we do that, there will be always provision provided for us. All those things will be added to us. And this is what Elijah showed us. Elijah was willing to follow God's will and His way. Get fed by ravens. That's super weird, but I'll do it. It's your way of doing it. Okay. You want a drought? Okay. I'm following your way. At no point did he change either of those plans. He followed his ways. And if you keep reading throughout the stories, there's some homework you can do. He continually gets provided for in this way. God says, now go here, now go here, God, go here. We're constantly being pushed to trust, to follow His will and His way. Now, we can also see an example of the opposite of that. And we see it in Jonah. And this story is really funny to me, and I really like it. But we'll jump in here, Jonah 1, starting in verse 1. The Lord gave this message to Jonah, son of Amittai. Get up and go to the great city of Nineveh. Announce my judgment against it, because I've seen how wicked its people are. But Jonah got up and went in the opposite direction to get away from the Lord. That's about the worst sentence you can have. But Jonah gets up and goes in the opposite direction, literally, to get away from the Lord. So he goes down to the port of Joppa, where he found a ship leaving for Tarshish. And he brought a ticket and went on board, hoping to escape from the Lord. He's hoping to escape from the Lord and what he wants him to do. God's will. He's hoping to escape. Now, where he was at in Joppa, that's on the coast. It's like in this kind of, like the Gulf of Mexico. It's this kind of bay, right? And so he goes over here. Now, Joppa's over here, and Nineveh's way over here with no water. It's across Israel. Like, you have to walk all the way over here. And it's beep over here. He goes in the opposite direction. Then he gets on water. You can't even reach it by water. And he starts sailing in the opposite direction. Okay. He didn't want God's will in his life. He chose to continually seek the opposite of God's will. Like we're talking, continue to seek his way and his will. He was continually seeking the opposite. And he literally says, I was trying to escape it. I was trying to escape God and go in the opposite direction. Literally. So, what happens? We know the story. God sends a storm that starts breaking on the ship. And I love the story because he's sleeping at the bottom. Which, how do you sleep through that? And the captain comes down and is like, what the heck? How are you sleeping? And all the men start praying to their individual gods, trying to figure out, one of us must have done something, we don't know what, which I just think is a funny scenario. Like, you prayed to yours, was it you? Was it you? So they wake him up and they say, did you do this? Who is this? So they cast lots. The most intense game ever. And so the short straw goes to Jonah, and they're like, it's you and your God. What did you do? And he's like, well, let me tell you a story. It's me. I'm running away. And they know he's running away from his God. And so they tried throwing weight overboard to make the ship lighter, right? And so they're like, well, what do we do to stop this? And for whatever reason, I would have suggested if I was Jonah, let me pray to my God, comfortably from down below, away from the water. Instead, he says, throw me into the water, and the storms will stop. Like, why was that his first response? I'm just saying, like, that's not right. So he goes, if you throw me in the water, I'm the weight that's gonna, throw me in the water, throw me in the water. And they're like, they try not to. They don't want to. Why? I don't want to murder a guy. I don't know. They throw him in the water. It says they tried paddling. And they took oars. They're like, no, row. And Jonah's like, please work. Nothing happens. The storm's still going. So he says, okay, toss me over. And it says, so then they all grabbed him. Why didn't you jump in? Huh? Questions that aren't worth asking. So why did Jonah jump in? I don't know, when he was his idea. So it says that they grabbed him though, and they threw him into the water, and then it says immediately, the storm stopped. Which is crazy. If I'm the guys, I'm like, what the? And they freaked out too. And they said, and it's a crazy story because it says they all looked at the power of God, of Jonah's God. And it says they stopped and they made sacrifices to him on the boat, and they started serving him right then and there. Talk about a conversion story. What is your testimony? Well, I went to Sunday school and they offered a sucker, and I said yes. This story is I was on a boat, and there was a storm, and we threw a man overboard, and it stopped. And I believed in God. Like, what a crazy, crazy conversion. Okay, anyways. Point of that is, in Jonah 1:17 it says, Jonah's in the water. Later on it says that he went down into the water and he's being pushed. But now, the Lord had arranged for a great fish to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was inside the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. God had prepared a great fish before he got in the water to swallow him up. How do I know that? Because you don't have a lot of time by the time the guy gets in the water from the storm. This fish was appointed. It was prepared for Jonah. Okay, the fish, 3 days and 2 nights. God, I wish I could just have a dream or a vision of what that was like one day. So he's in there, and he gets spit up again. What does that look like? What hole did he come out of? I don't know. So he's there, and he gets spit out. It's not relevant. Don't ask these questions. I do. My Bible studies are intense. So he gets shot out somewhere, and he's onto the shore. Interesting. He's on the shore. Because remember, Nineveh's that way, on the shore. He went that way. I guarantee you. This is my assumption. Well, he went this way into the water. Storm comes. Fish swims him 3 days back. All the way back. And when he gets spit out, he's probably like, oh, back on. That's not in the Bible, okay? But it's my assumption. It says spent 3 days in there, right? So maybe he got 3 days out, and then I like to imagine he got 3 days back, and he spit out back where he started. Why is this significant? God goes ahead of you, just like he did Elijah, correct. But God will go behind you too. Think about that. He prepared something when he knew he'd go the other way. He was prepared for it. He was prepared for it. He's prepared. I'm going to give you this command. You go, run away. I mean, that's instant disobedience. Instant, run away, trying to escape you. And that didn't stop him. He says he was prepared for it, and he prepared something behind him to get him back. God goes ahead of you, but he will go behind you to go get you and to bring you back. That whale was prepared behind him. It's an encouraging thought to know even when I run away, he's prepared always to get me back. And he will prepare even things way behind me to make sure I still make it to where I'm supposed to be. The same reason that the prodigal son, who asked for his inheritance early, spent all his money, says on prostitutes and sin and all these terrible things, he comes back, the father was still prepared with wealth to give to his son. He gave him his ring, he slaughtered a calf, he was still prepared when the son came back. God goes ahead of you, and he'll go behind you in case you decide, I'm running away from his will and his way. If we're not continually seeking his will and his way, God is still continually seeking a way to get you back. And he has prepared things, even if that's you and you're in a Jonah situation right now. He's prepared things. He's prepared for you to get back. That's a cool idea, isn't it? That he goes ahead of you and behind you. The whale was prepared in the opposite direction of what God called him to do. Prepared in advance, because he goes ahead of you and sees exactly what's coming. You know, that's why you can never run out of chances to do his calling. It's never too late. You know, Jonah went 3 days the wrong direction. It wasn't too late. God was still able to use him. We see in 1 Peter 1:20 the greatest provision that God made, looking ahead in time, and how we know that he did this. Is this talking about Jesus? He was chosen before the creation of the world, but was revealed in these last times for your sake. In other words, there's Revelation 13:8, it's not up there, says that the Lamb that was slain from the creation of the world. Jesus was prepared before the world was created. He was chosen. He was selected. The preparation was made already to get us back before we lived a single day. Before the world experienced a literal single day. Jesus was prepared in advance because God went ahead. And if you didn't withhold Jesus in preparing that in advance, is it really too difficult to think he hasn't prepared everything else for you? You see, Jesus is the greatest thing he's prepared in advance for you. And the day that you said, I choose Jesus as my Lord and Savior, was the greatest day that he planned in advance for you. Because Jesus is the answer to everything that we need. He's the solution to all of the issues. He comes, the package of the Holy Spirit is everything that we need to get in front of us and behind us. That is because of Jesus. That is the only reason. It's because of Jesus. He comes ahead of us and behind us because he's so good. And so God, from the beginning, before the world was even made, he prepared in advance Jesus for you, for us, for the world, to reconcile us even back together. The big rescue plan. He planned that before it ever happened. God plans ahead for us. He's continually planning ahead for us. God knows what we need before we ask because he's gone ahead of me. And he's gone behind me to prepare for my every single day. That means I can live in confidence every single day. That he's prepared for every situation that I go through. Because he goes ahead of me and he's behind me. And if I am like Jonah in seasons like that, God is prepared for that too. And he's there to catch you up. Amen?